to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message, hit the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try enforcing some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
All right, let's get started. Hey guys, welcome to whatever episode number this is of the Trinity Force Podcast.
390.
We are not live tonight, as you are finding out because you are listening to this on a podcast form. Because Adam is on vacation. He's on his honeymoon, I believe. Or honeymoon-ish.
He's getting drunk on a boat.
He's getting very drunk on a boat. He's got an all-inclusive cruise with his lovely wife, and they are just being irresponsible for an entire week, I believe. So as they should be.
They deserve it.
They're
Congratulations.
She might deserve it. He probably doesn't. So guys, we do have kind of a sponsor tonight, and I'll explain this because it's kind of something that came from PAX West. While we were there, we got to talk to HyperX. And in talking with their rep, we made a point of contact, and they said, hey, if you email us, we will send you guys out some of our new HyperX headsets that they just released, I think, a couple days ago. And mine just came in the mail today. So I am trying it out for the first time, listening for the first time while recording this episode. So I will be at least saying something at the end about how everything sounds, because I'm going from a pretty shitty headset to their, to be fair, budget $50 headset that is it feels and sounds pretty good so far, and we had gotten to try them out of PAX. So.
Still leaps and bounds better than your garbage headset.
Yeah, it's way better than just trash tier headset that I might as well have just put together.
Open air, closed ear.
Yeah, it's
closed.
I mean, my ears are going to be pretty warm after this, I feel like, but like in a good way. It's pretty nice. So yeah, also today we're going to do listener questions and not just pimp ourselves out for free stuff. So we got a bunch the last few weeks.
We have not done listener questions, certainly since I came back. When's the last time you guys did them?
When Adam wasn't just spitting emails back to people when they send them in, because he's like, I could just take care of it on my own.
Yeah, we're doing it a little bit differently now, thankfully.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we'll go for our first one. I don't know, like...
Oh, we're going right into that? We don't want to talk Ivern first?
Oh, okay,
let's
talk Ivern. Yeah. So Dom got to play Ivern a bunch, so talk to us
I
about...
I got to watch Dom play Ivern a bunch.
And I got to watch you talk about playing Ivern now.
So there's been a lot of spectating on a guy who didn't play Ivern that well, is what we're really...
I don't know, you did great. Ivern... We had that sweet 2v4 in that definitely not Dominion game, which was...
Yeah, I'm very grateful it was a definitely not Dominion weekend. Longtime listeners will surely remember that I am a big fan of that mode. I was sad to see it go away, but it was back for 3 or 4 days, whatever it is.
For 3 minutes.
And I gave Ivern a whirl for a few games, just like between Worlds matches and that type of stuff. He is a difficult, complicated champion, and it is really easy to feel like you are contributing nothing during a game while you are trying to figure this champion out. Like, there are a lot of other champions where you pick them up for the first time and it's like, oh, I didn't do that right, but I know how to do that right going on, like, you know, in the future. And this guy, you really need, more than anything else, you really need to get the micro of Daisy down before you're going to be successful on them. And there's a lot of data supporting that. I guess he's at 41% win rate today based on Riot's internal data. But all the numbers you're going to be seeing are going to have him in around like the 32% win rate, which is terrible.
Yeah, that's real bad.
All of Riot's internal stuff kind of says that he has a really, really steep learning curve, and that makes them worry that he's going to be an incredibly strong champion once people actually figure him out. I guess one of their play testers has an 80% win rate on him on live because he's been playing the champion, you know, through many different iterations, but certainly trying to get him to the point where they could even throw him on the PBE. He put in a lot of time on the champion. Yeah. So there is a lot of potential.
That reminds me of, I mean, Aurelian Soul came in and was horribly low win rates. Not this bad, but he was pretty bad at release. And once people started figuring him out and got a number of games on him, it was a huge spike in win rate. And one thing that you guys won't be able to see on Champion GG is ranked experience. The win rate by games played is based on past seasons of play, I believe.
Okay.
Or at least that's what it usually says, 2014, 2015 ranked experience. So it might not show up for a while. You might not see those numbers, but I think that post you linked also said there was a spike around like 15 games played where people start. I mean, obviously, if you played a champion for 15 games, you're going to have a much better grasp than
Then if
when you
you're
started.
just picking him up for the first 3, right?
I even felt it right around game 5, which was the game that I played with Sean. And it was really just, okay, I can't, I was never that proficient of a real-time strategy player. You know, I played Warcraft 3 and all that type of stuff, just the story mode, but I was never a big competitive online player there. So I'm not going to claim to have a whole lot of that, you know, macro, micro, multi-unit proficiency. So for me, controlling more than one thing at this point is kind of a taxing experience. It's very new and different, which is fun, but it can be really frustrating, especially when, you know, you might be managing Daisy really well, but then you get killed on Ivern, and then all the things you were doing really well on Daisy don't fucking matter because Daisy disappears right alongside Ivern.
Yeah,
when he goes down.
Daisy scales off of AP too, right? So like,
yeah, and I've found that to be really, really frustrating. Like Ivern just is too exposed. You know, even when you're carefully using all of his brush creation, and granted this might be a little different on Summoner's Rift, but certainly on definitely not Dominion. When you're using all of his brush creation tools and everything, like, you know, a lot of times you are weaving in and out of the brush just to get the ranged auto attack for yourself, but the moment you are out of that brush, you are now exposed again, or you've given your opponents an advantage because they can walk into that brush and get a little zone control. And if you are building full AP, you know, you're gonna fucking die fast. Like you die so quickly. I had a lot more success when I started switching to a kind of hybrid AP,
AP Bruiser build.
AP Bruiser build, basically. And like, just because that helped keep Ivern alive long enough for Daisy to do the things that she needed to do to like really disrupt the fight, and so then Ivern could, you know, continue getting other people in, being supportive and dealing damage, you know, the way he does. His cooldowns felt punishingly long. They like just punishingly long until I hit a. I mean, honestly, it was like more a level spike than it was items and everything. Just because by those certain levels, you know, you have a good number of items supporting it and everything. But it just in the early game, it felt like I couldn't do anything. You cast 2 abilities, and then it's like, well, now I'm just gonna kind of wait around and hope it goes for the best, you know, hope for the best for my team because I can't do anything here. And that might be more meaningful on Summoner's Rift, where with a good gank, you know, and the shield damage sort of engage ability, you know, it sort of compensates for all of that type of stuff. But in general skirmishes, it was like, okay, if I miss this skill shot or they eat through the shield before it blows up and deals damage, then there's nothing I can do anymore.
Yeah, I feel like he's gonna have to be somebody who stays alive and gets like, I don't know, 2 to 3, maybe closing in on 4 uses of his Q and E in a team fight just to be any sort of relevant. That's not like Daisy notwithstanding.
I mean,
and that's a long time. That's a long.
Yeah, that takes a really long time. The shield, like by about mid game, I guess if you're maxing the shield, and I'm not recalling offhand if that cooldown scales down. I think it does. If you're the shield does feel like it starts to be up more and more when you want it. I might be a little biased because I'm used to playing Janna and Karma as far as shields go, and you know, you get support itemization is just ripe with cooldown reduction, so those shields are pretty much always up when you want them. And playing Ivern, who doesn't have the same easy access to cooldown reduction if you're going the Bruiser AP build, like it's really hard to come across CDR in that
his
route.
shield goes from 12 seconds at rank 1 to 8 at max,
which I think is right in line with Janna, but if you don't have the CDR to support it, it feels like it's always on fucking cooldown, and you're also using it to engage. It's not always a reactive thing.
Yeah, one of the items that but Champion GG I still think is going to be it's gonna be useful to see what people are building, but it's also so much of a fledgling character that no one really knows what's really great.
Well, that's it. Like, just because it has the winningest build at 32% win rate doesn't mean anybody's figured out the right build for him yet.
But
that means everybody has no clue what they're doing at the moment.
The item that makes sense though to me is Proto Belt, because it gets all the stats you kind of want. You get the AP, you get CDR, you get health, and having a bit more mobility on him isn't bad. It's still kind of weird because it's not like Kennen or Vladimir where it makes sense where you have to just be in the middle to do either Kennen ult or Vladimir getting a bunch of damage off or something. But the stats make sense, and maybe that dash will too, or maybe GLP will or something. But then
I bought
don't
GLP a lot. I bought GLP a lot. I liked having the extra soft crowd control. You know, and the HP, the mana, all that type of stuff. And it I guess more than anything else, it felt like the smarter buy, but I kind of always forget that Proto Belt has cooldown reduction because it's just not an item I buy often. And while I don't like the active as much for Ivern, just because he already has a dash type thing in his kit, I do see the appeal of the rest of the stats on there. And so in thinking about it now, I do wish I had gone for that item, but I definitely like the Proto Belt as a first buy item one of those Hex Tech items as a first buy for him.
I actually think that the Proto Belt maybe used a little bit as a repositioning. Okay, it's not a bold fucking statement for me to say that Proto Belt's used as a repositioning tool, but I think it might be used as a quick fire thing to position yourself and surprise an enemy by getting a Q off to a character they thought was safe, and maybe that's what you end up using it for. Like you've got the tank line's positioning right, and then you just dash over and immediately Q and hit their backline, and suddenly everyone's in the backline. And I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
It's also I have played against bots on this character. I don't have any sort of idea of how real people play against it yet, but I feel like it's gonna be so difficult in jungle. And
Lolalytics has a lot of the items and everything, and shows the different ways people are going. And it seems like there's kind of everybody's in the same territory I'm in right now. They're just not sure how to build them. Rod of Ages is pretty popular, but then beyond that, it's like a lot of people are getting Proto Belt, but then there's a lot of Locket. You know, people don't know. It's hard to tell if he's getting played more as support or jungle. Champion GG does show jungle more. So yeah, there's a lot of up in the air, which is kind of fun because, especially with so many of the pros being at Worlds right now, it gives the player base a better opportunity to really just figure this champion out without right. the top of the mountain saying this is how it's done and that's it.
Yeah, it gives us time to struggle and play a bit, which is
a different change. We can talk builds all you want and everything, but the reality is that your success with this champion comes down to how well you manage Daisy. And I'm not going to say I did it well, but Sean was in the game where it just kind of clicked for me. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how many times you said Daisy's
I made a comment about
beast.
that, like, holy crap, Daisy hits, like, Daisy's dominating, like, Daisy's hitting really, really hard. And
she has some of the worst AI possible, like the number of times where she, like, I was clicking, or I thought I had clicked it to issue a command, and she either did it wrong or didn't do anything. Like, she doesn't auto-engage just because you start getting attacked, which was infuriating when I got engaged on one time and was, like, just trying to scurry away. I'm like, oh, Daisy will help me. No, she won't. So, it just... And it's different than, like, Annie Tibbers and Mordekaiser, and Yorick, certainly. Yorick just... You summon them and they do nothing. The other pets are kind of icing on the cake, but they're nice extra damage, or they're good for tanking stuff, but they're not contributing nearly as much to the overall success of that champion's kit. If you follow what I'm saying.
She feels like the most core pet out of any champion that has a pet. Like,
yeah.
Like even Tibbers. Tibbers is icing on the cake for Annie.
Right, because Annie, if all else fails, Annie can still just be a really
blow
good,
you
successful
up.
Stun bot, or she can blow you up before Tibbers even needs to deal any damage.
Right,
and
but like
Ivern
Daisy feels like
a
whole different story. And she lasts forever.
Well, that's the thing. It's a long time. It's not a long time like super damage thing. It's the threat of being able to pump out a bunch of free CC if she survives long enough and gets those hits on too. I mean, it's not negligible damage, but like if you're going to end up going that hybrid tank route, it's pretty much just going to be I want her to get as much crowd control as possible for as long as possible. And honestly, like I thought she was really, really strong in terms of like pushing turrets, even though she starts getting attacked by it. But you can move her out of range, and she starts regenning, and then still is alive for 60 fucking seconds.
And that's one thing I can't speak to because of how Dominion's turrets work relative to, or compared to Summoner's Rift. During the one bot game, I felt like she was incredibly good at the objective control stuff because she can tank forever. Ivern's got the shield that he can keep throwing on her, so it's not like she's going to be taking a ton of damage. And he's not going to take any, and in theory, the rest of your team doesn't have to take any. In practice, that's a little harder to coordinate than you want it to be. But there is a lot of potential there, and I do have to agree with their assessment that once people are really good and just spend the time to learn the champion, he's going to be really, really strong. But as a result, he's not going to be too appealing to the majority of the player base because most people just kind of want the flavor of the month or the secret OP, the hidden thing, the thing they don't have to invest a lot of time to learn because that's not how you move up quickly. You know, being good at the game as a whole is, and just being able to adjust to the trends and adopt the new, the one trick of the month is a much better way to climb than really, really dedicating yourself to just outright mastering one very complex champion.
Yeah, there's still so much, like not even just items or the team, any of the other things that we've talked about. The jungle path is probably not optimized yet, and that's still going to include like people figuring out how to counter it pretty hard too, or at least just like invade on him. Is like, hey, I bet he's taken two. We saw him take 2 camps on.
Well, it's a pretty obvious tell.
You go walk over and you're like, oh, you're at 12 health. Bye. This is pretty easy. Just flash auto attack and you killed Ivern at level 1.
It's obvious if he's been near your jungle camps. Either they're there and they're ready to go, and so he's making his way. I mean, yeah, it's going to be really easy to just ambush that fucker.
Yeah, because the thing that I thought when I mentioned Mumu, I think last week or when we talked about Ivern, was that back in the day, like he was the like weak jungler that people still pick because he stomps in low elos, but people would be able to invade on him and figure it out because it's a pretty obvious path. He had to go blue buff. Now that some champs are a bit different, now that the jungle's different, like you can go other routes. It's not as there's almost no champs that are one path dependent anymore. Ivern might end up being that one that is. I don't know if he's going to be, but if anyone's going to be, I think it would be him that has just such a obvious path that he has to take that he could get punished really hard for it, and a team has to play around or against him based on that.
And the funny part right now is that if Ivern is a jungle control, like if he fills that counter jungling controller niche, the buffs to Nunu in the last patch just skyrocketed him. Based on champion.gg, which is, we need to disclaim, that's
we're not sponsored by it. We're not sponsored by Champion.
No, but we do have to. We do have to disclaim it's Platinum Plus and everything. But Nunu is the second winningest jungler right now.
Be careful with that because Platinum Plus is a chain of strip clubs in the South Carolina area. So let's not. We're not sponsored by them either, guys. Even though I don't know what we would get if we were.
Good times. No, Nunu is the second winningest jungler, and it's a statistically relevant play percent. It's not. Mundo's first, but Mundo's played, 0.5% of the time. Nunu's at 5.45% pick rate. Like, that's relevant.
People picked him up again like crazy after the changes.
So the buffs were meaningful, but now you have 2 guys who kind of occupy the same space, as far as what they want to do. That could lead to some really interesting in-game, competing interactions and that type of thing. But ultimately, like, for most people, I kind of think Nunu's just the better pick.
He's easier.
He's so much easier to play, and
much.
Your epic monster control.
I mean, it isn't just that he's easier.
Better.
He's gonna win 1v1s just because, like, again with Ivern's early cooldowns and whatnot, Nunu's probably just gonna end up auto attacking him down or getting rooted, and it's just kind of a moot point wherever they would end up meeting.
Yeah. Ivern is not going to outduel him.
Oh no, I think Dom, you were just saying they fit the same
health.
role, right? You're saying kind of fit the same roles.
Yeah.
Like, why would you pick the much harder champion?
Right.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that'd be a stomp. That'd be such a bad matchup. They're just smacking the shit out of you the entire time.
They've already hinted at Nunu probably having been overbuffed and everything, and I'm kind of like, just give him a chance to shine. He was I thought these buffs weren't enough and everything, so I guess
their
I'm using
issue
some crow right now,
with giving him a chance to shine is when Nunu is shining, arguably people on Nunu's team aren't necessarily having that much fun unless you're the AD carry and you're just turned into the next level god AD carry because of one button that he can press, or the enemy jungler is figuring out the quickest way to just make the game end. Because it's so not fun to play against a Nunu who's crushing your soul and your team can't react to it.
Yeah, you wanted to play him top lane for that reason. I'm actually really bummed that they keep throwing more and more at the consume and basically just forcing him to be a jungler. Because there were those people who liked playing him in top lane, and he was a meta support pick for a long time back in Season 2 and kind of into Season 3. And to see Riot just do away with those roles altogether for Nunu, I don't know, it's pretty disappointing.
I didn't realize that I missed a patch notes episode because I was like, what Nunu buffs happened? I just read them and oh my goodness, what are these buffs?
And at the time I kind of just felt like they were a different version of the same story that we already had because he was already getting those camp buffs. But I think having everything just streamlined into doesn't matter what you eat, just that you eat.
It's that, but it's also they buffed everything else too. Every other thing was just like, oh, let's just bump up his AD. Let's bump up his passive. Let's bump up his ultimate. Let's bump up a lot of things and just see what happens. I don't know what happens when we buff an entire kit. It can't make the win rate go up. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, the funny part is Sean and I played a game over the weekend together where we had a Nunu on our team, and this was kind of before we realized how good he had gotten. We were both just like, wow, I can't believe we won a game with Nunu.
Yeah, we I don't even know. That guy didn't really do anything either.
He missed a lot of his ult. Like he just. It's hard to miss Nunu's. It's hard to miss Nunu's ult, but this guy would be predicting, and he would start channeling the ult in Brush and everything, and then the opponents would just walk around. And sometimes it was like sometimes Brush was warded, and that's gonna happen. And there were a lot of times where like he just picked a really bad spot to go because the enemies had no interest in going there, despite having no vision of that particular spot.
I'm looking at that game right now because we had that Yasuo top lane. It was me, you, and Punch got fed as fuck. So again, it's talking about we'll put things in perspective. Nunu went 3, 7, and 25. Strong showing from the support jungler.
Yeah. Wait, does that?
Well, it's really easy for Nunu to get assists. You just press, you just blood boil anybody.
The person who's about to get a kill. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Punch had 23 kills that game, so it definitely I can see where the assist came from.
Does that stacking system work? Is it when you kill a monster with Q, or is it whenever you cast Q on a large monster? So you could get it multiple times from the same one.
I don't think you can get it multiple times from the same one. But I think you can do the drive-by. Hey, I'm running away, but I'm gonna quick chomp on something and then just keep trucking.
Kind of like you already would do anyways. So it's like you're just getting more.
Yeah, you'd already do it just to get the health back.
Well,
health and
you would get buffs anyways from those monsters. Okay.
Yeah, I think it works the same, but I haven't played him, so I can't I can't verify that.
Yeah, so he's probably overtuned. Yeah, I'd say sounds like he's overtuned a little bit.
That's fine. So play him because he's real easy, and apparently you can.
I mean, if you like playing Nunu, now's the time to do it before they potentially revert some of those changes.
And if you're looking for the secret OP, if you're a jungler looking for the secret OP, just trying to real quick climb in the last month here, just play Nunu. Just do it right now.
I love how you were just referencing that too. It's like, hey, if you wanted to do that, I don't know who it's gonna be. Wait, it's Nunu. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, just like Nunu right now.
Position change plus 30. Jesus.
And he is not you don't have to learn Nunu. You just choose Nunu and then play Nunu.
The only thing you need to know about playing Nunu is don't just power farm your own jungle. Go be the
power
most
farm
annoying
the enemy's jungle.
Yeah, go be the most annoying champion in the enemy's jungle that's ever lived.
A week ago I didn't think we were going to be talking about Nunu at all, and here we are.
Also, if you lock in Nunu, try to figure out who's on the enemy team, whisper them, and say pick Ivern, and then you'll definitely win. I don't know how that would work, but it'd be pretty funny if it did.
Honestly, like, I don't even think you'd have to. All you'd have to do is tell someone in the enemy team to play Ivern, and you have a pretty high chance of winning.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so let's move on. That was wow. We got a lot out of that. I'm kind of surprised. I'm happy about it.
I love how it went from Ivern into Nunu. That was beautiful.
Yeah, that was
good job, guys. This is a callback to a bygone era
when we were smooth with our transitions.
Yeah,
that's kind of weird. Maybe we're not drunk enough.
To the currently happening transition.
I mean, hey, we talked about it earlier, so it's a callback to that. So there's a lot of callbacks right now.
Yeah.
All right, so first one, we had Asher wrote in saying, I've been maining top for a long time, but I'm always not sure what to pick for what situation. I've been playing lots of Triforce Echo and Gangplank, though he's been hit by nerfs. I'm picking up Kled, Punch would be really happy,
Yeah,
and wondering
fucking wish Punch was here.
and wondering if he's fit to carry late, since in high silver it mostly goes late. I'm very close to gold and need advice to know what to pick for the right situation.
All right, well, first off, I'm going to be honest with you. You're overthinking it. Just kind of pick the champion that you're really good with and go with from there and everything. Matchups are important, and you need to understand, like, if you are going to struggle against the specific opponent and everything. But as long as you basically don't feed, like, if you go in with the attitude like, I know I'm going to struggle, I just don't need to, I just don't want to feed here. That's all I got to do. CS as best as I can. Stay, don't give my opponent a huge lead. Then you should be fine if you're otherwise proficient with the champion.
Yeah, I really if you've been maining top for a really long time, keep playing the stuff that, like, really, really well to play. You just might have to change up little bits and pieces of your playstyle to facilitate more wins. Because, like, the big thing, especially about top, just giving up, 15, 20 CS to sit back and not die is way, way, way more worth it than going in and trying to out-trade somebody for, like, 1 CS to be pushed out to the fact where you're not going to be able to get anything for the rest of the time until you have to back. I don't know. I feel this season in particular, because I've basically only played 2 champions for the past 2 months now, maybe 2.5 months. I've been climbing pretty consistently, just doing that. I've been playing a ton of Swain. I found Swain. I've talked about it before. It's a champion I really, really like. I always feel useful. If you have a champion that you play and there are games that you're in where even if you get behind, you still feel useful in, that's the champion to play. Like,
I climbed to gold 2 playing nothing but Janna. And then I thought I hit a point where it's like, all right, it's time to really start worrying about matchups and playing the matchup game and everything. And I, had always prided myself on having a pretty wide champion pool, and I fell because I was worrying so much about matchups and picking or not picking something based on what I was going to be into and looking at team comps and all that type of stuff and everything. And now I'm playing nothing but Morgana, and I'm climbing again.
right.
Like, I'm higher than I was when I was playing nothing but Janna, and I fell down to, like, gold 5, almost falling back into silver because I was overthinking all that stuff. And so, like, I'm right there with Sean. Just pick 1, maybe 2 champions that you just
really
want to be really good with, and just stick with them.
I'd say,
honestly, Echo's a really good one right now.
Yeah, the one
I'm
thing,
all down on the
one
Echo
thing
train.
I'd say on the 3 that you're talking about, if you're thinking about if you actually are going to pick up Kled, but those 3, the only weakness I could see there is if you end up, I don't know, in situations where playing melee, like you keep running into a melee matchup or a range matchup that's messing with you because you're playing Echo Gangplank Kled. They're pretty short range. I mean, they all have ranged attacks, but if you are running into bad matchups with one specific champion and you see that getting picked a bunch for some reason, I don't know what it is, but you might find one champion to counter that and get really good at it real quick, like play a couple normals, figure out how to play it in ranked.
So you have something
for that because you take care of your one weakness. And if you're trying to climb to gold, it is the end of the season. It's obviously you need to, like, quickly standardize what that is if you're going to pick up one thing, because it's still you have like a month left. But yeah, if you I don't know, Gnar is what I play top, and it can do a lot of the same things that Echo could do.
You play Corky top.
I play Corky anywhere, but I would play Gnar, and Gnar would be what I'd suggest in that scenario because you're still pretty physical, but you can get hard CC in, but you can also be ranged and deal with you can beat a ranged matchup early on. I don't know. That's what I would suggest. If you, I don't know, that might not be your playstyle, but
I'm not advocating for this necessarily because this is not the best example, but
that was quite the.
I'm just saying,
quite the lead.
I
Disclaimer
was
there.
Singed in a game the other day. I haven't played Singed in forever. I was having fun on Singed because he's a champion that runs at you and drops gas, and I fed the fuck out of a Riven. Like it might have been the worst trouncing.
yeah, it was after the podcast. It was after the podcast last week.
It was after the podcast last week.
Yeah, that was horrible.
I was
Did we
like, man,
win?
I'm just gonna have fun this
Did we
game.
win that
Yeah,
game?
we won.
I think
Oh yeah,
won.
we fucking won. Hey guys, if you go 0-7 in lane like this guy right here, all
He's
you
pointing
gotta
at himself.
do.
You can't see
What
him,
was that?
but he was pointing at
Yeah,
himself.
I'm pointing at myself. This is what you do. You just hold faith and try and not die as much as possible, even though you've already died a bunch of times. I stayed in the game and got full build just by running off and farming and doing a thing, and always at least, like, even though I was so down, I wasn't even playing like a proxy style Singed. I was actually that was part of my issue. I wanted to do a little bit of be annoying in lane and that, and didn't work at all. And I haven't played Singed in a long time, so I'm going to use that as my excuse. But like, if you're not doing well, you need to recalculate how you're going to have to go about to at least facilitate some sort of help for your team.
And that would almost be why I say, maybe reconsider this Kled that you're talking about, because if he gets behind, he is offering the ult initiation, and then that's it. Like, he's gonna melt in fights.
Yeah.
He's not gonna deal the damage to be meaningful. Whereas Echo and Gangplank can still do a lot of really positive things while being from behind. And being behind, I mean, hell, Gangplank a lot of times spends a significant chunk of the game behind and everything because he's going to just power farm and
well, that's
show
the
up
thing.
like
Gangplank
and be
stays
a monster
in one
late
spot,
anyway.
but he can offer up something else somewhere else on the map. My issue with Kled's kind of in the same boat that Olaf's in. That if you're in a game that Kled kind of gets ahead in, if you're in a game that Olaf gets ahead in, and you're the only person on your team that's ahead, you're likely not solo carrying 4 other people. Those champions they do their best when like their team is already on an equal level or winning, and you have the supporting people to still be a threat while you go and do your basic backline dives or anything like that.
He's climbed to 50%. Kled has.
I mean,
at least.
that's okay.
Sorry, I'm looking at damage from last couple games, and that one. The reason that Singed works when you feed real hard is if your Corki deals 50,000 damage to champions.
Yeah, that was the other benefit. You came, you did come top and get shut down gold.
I got
twice,
I had a
that
quad
helped.
in that game. I was
Yeah.
real strong.
That helped.
I mean, the
just
thing
kept splitting
about
the whole
Kled is that he's going to take you a good 50 games to good and master, and at least
this
from
point,
my perspective, that's too many games for you to invest in a
at
champion.
this point in the season.
At this point in the season, do it in the off season, pick him up for next season, totally different story. But right now, I think is a bad time to start learning Kled. And we got this question, maybe a month ago, so it's not exactly timely advice, but sorry.
No, it's yeah. I think that covers it.
Yeah,
Feels good. I don't know. I'm just ready to push on.
Honestly, when it comes to top lane, just don't die. Like, not dying is so goddamn important. I cannot stress it enough.
That's every role. Like, one of my biggest frustrations playing this game is the number of people who take so many risks that have a strong chance that it will result in them dying, and a low chance of actually being something positive for them. And like, that's how you lose games. It's just taking all those unnecessary risks. I mean, dying gives the opponents gold, gives them experience, and it's time that you're not on the board. And I think that's what people really don't value.
Yeah, sorry. I was looking at one of the other questions that I didn't know if it was we didn't post it in here. But All right, we'll move on down. Orange Lion writes, for much of Season 6, Scion has been somewhere between the winningest and third winningest support, which is important to note because that was what Dom was playing in our game when Chira fed the shit out of Riven.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I wasn't even playing the game.
No one remembers it. We're all PTSD'd on it. What are your experiences with this champion in this role? How well does he work bot lane with meta-type ADCs like Jhin? And it is worth noting, this is very much not a standard pick and not something that, like, he's a very winning support champ because not many people play him, but those people that do are good at it.
Yeah.
Also, Champions Select Podcast, we talked about it. Champions Select Podcast Scion, we talked about support Scion.
Yeah, he's the winningest support right now with a 0.56% win rate in Plat Plus.
I'm gonna hope you meant
it's meaningful.
I'm gonna really hope you meant 56%, not 0.05. Oh, 0.056 play rate. You said win rate, I think. And I was like,
I'm sorry.
I was like, that's a horrible win rate. He wins 56 out of every.
He's the winningest,
1,
but he doesn't get played. I mean, there aren't a lot of people playing him. It's mostly one tricks or people who are really hip to, like some real hipsters there.
His damage taken numbers are absurd compared to all of the other tanky supports. It's amazing.
What I like about support Scion is that he provides you a lot of early game security. He's durable kind of from the get-go, but if they try something on you and they're dumb and they focus the support instead of the AD carry like they're supposed to, killing Scion doesn't necessarily guarantee that your team is coming out ahead because he comes back to life.
As a big
and
monster.
As long as your AD carry can keep them interested, just long enough for Scion to show up and murder things, like that can really tip the scales in your favor in short order. Aside from that,
a piece of that is that, like, if you get into the 2v2 and they focus Scion first, that 2v2 that might have been like 2 kills against a team
can turn into
very easily only becomes like 1 because they killed Scion and they have to back off because he can do a whole lot of damage in a very short period of time while he's dead, and your AD carry might be able to flip it at that point, or
it ends up going to the enemy team.
Yeah, you just flip it.
It could go from being a 1-0 trade to being like to you going 1-2 because you engaged on Scion support. He's a poke lane tank, and that there aren't any other poke lane tanks. You have to be a little bit tricky with how you play him, but if you know how to just abuse his harass in the early goings, you can make a lot of headway there in ways that other tanks really just can't. His engage itself isn't really that good. He's got great counter engage, but if you get a good knock up with Scion and they have another, the fight otherwise hadn't been started, it's because the enemy misplayed, not because you really did anything to
put
start
yourself
that
in
fight.
that position.
But the other thing that I think is really overlooked, at least maybe in the other lanes, but his E shreds the armor of the first target that it hits. So if you keep that off of cooldown, because you sense that they're going to engage or you're trying to bait them into it and everything, all of a sudden you can smash the AD carry. The support would be less ideal, but you smash somebody with that and shred their armor, and then your Jhin, who's great in that situation, is going to be able to root them and then just pump a bunch of damage into that target because they already have less armor than the meager amount they have at the beginning. He is, in my experience, he kind of works with just about everybody. Maybe you don't want him with Kog'Maw, but he absolutely works with Jhin because Jhin is high damage. I mean, I don't know. I honestly can't think of an AD carry I wouldn't want to play him with. Lucian would be great. I'd play him with Corki.
I mean, I'd play with Corki because I like Corki, but he does so much magic damage that that armor penetration is not going to do hardly anything. You're talking about half of an auto attack is the amount of physical damage Corki does.
I guess. I don't know. I would still play him with Corki because he's still gonna. Corki just deals a bunch of damage. Yeah. When you start a fight there.
No, I like the lockup. That would be my initial thought.
And frankly, Corki's actually I like him a lot more with Corki now that I think about it because Corki's kind of got that same type of poke harass element going on. So you could stop them from ever even having the chance to engage and just force them back between the two of them constantly shooting bombs and minions. their
Not
way.
to mention Corki being able to W you out, it makes it way harder if Scion's on the other side of you while you're trying to chase down a Corki.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been I always love those picks that are I'm trying to think of the other ones right now, but like picks that have just immensely low play rates because it's one tricks in completely off meta roles.
Mundo Jungle right now is
doing
Mundo's the winningest jungler with the same type of play rate. He was a jungler years and years ago, so he doesn't exactly fit the bill, but since season 4, everybody's always thought of him as a top laner.
Oh, he did get a change recently. He had
Yeah.
I forget. I know his E got changed a little bit. Maybe more damage. No, it's more. He got more AD. I think as it scaled, like he got more AD the less health he had, which was already a thing, but they increased the ratio of that, I believe, in maybe 619. But maybe that's why people are picking up, or at least some people who used to play these champions are trying them after small changes and seeing like, hey, is it back to normal? Is it good? It looks like they did. Actually, they buffed it up a good bit on his E.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And we even said that we thought he was going to be kind of this sleeper, really good champion. I didn't see jungle coming, but
it makes sense though, because if you're getting more out of the low health, and it's a situation where you kind of just inherently go low health anyways, and you're okay with it being the jungle, that makes his clear probably really really fast. Comparison to
he becomes an unkillable asshole at the end of the game.
Oh yeah, he's still like my second favorite champion to play in ARAM, because he's just an asshole the entire game. You're just constantly throwing cleavers. It takes no skill to play him in ARAM at all, but you can just mindlessly throw cleavers the entire game. Maybe not even skill up any of his other abilities.
Well, 2 of his 3 of his abilities require you to just push a button and reap the benefits. It's not even
Herb Derp, let's go.
Yeah. Only one of his abilities even require you to do something more than push a button.
Yep. All right. Moving on down. Chris asks, how do you defend your base in late close games when the other team breaks up into groups? I'm assuming that means like a 1-3-1 or 4-1 kind of splits. Instead
maybe
of
2-3,
2-3, maybe a 1-0-1 where 3 people are disconnected. We don't know. Instead of forcing,
playing with you.
Yeah,
the
like
other
playing
day?
with me when my computer just decides to die every few minutes. It's been great. I actually won an ARAM game despite that happening.
Despite that,
apparently,
we almost won that game.
I know. We almost won a ranked game doing that. Also, hey, just totally off track. That game that we lost, I still did more damage than the Jinx. I was in the game for maybe 10 minutes total, and it was
you were
40
great
game.
while you were there,
40-minute game.
but you weren't there for much.
I wish I had like connection time if that was a stat. Sorry. So, how do you defend your base in late close games when enemy team breaks up into groups instead of forcing a 5v5? Setting aside the unwieldy prospect of getting quick consensus using pings and text in solo queue, what sort of strategies should defenders employ if the other team won't group for a big all-in throwdown but is able to apply pressure? And I know we talked about this last week because I was talking about the ward placement in bases, and that's when you end up getting pink wards in between turrets and in between inhibitors, so you can clear out vision of what people.
I don't see that enough. I don't see that nearly enough.
It's so important because if people are placing ward, you obviously can see out of your gate. Your opponents can't see into yours, so they'll put wards on the other side of it. If you put pink wards out of range of their ranged auto attacks, but can see those wards that are so devastating, you've just nullified their entire vision. Their only way of knowing when you're moving, and now you're in safety. You can place wards hopefully on the other side of that if they don't do the same thing in return, which people in low elo don't. So you just get a massive just vision and information benefit if you do that pink ward that's just a bit farther back. It seems weird if you don't use pink wards very often and you're in low elo, you might think, oh, I only use pink wards really in brush. This is the time when it is so much better, and not to save it for that. You could use them and just completely destroy a siege.
By the time they come in to take that pink ward anyway, things have probably already gone sideways. So dropping it in that spot is going to do way more to maybe pay off to where you might not have to.
But you're talking right now. You're talking about situations where they've kind of already cracked into your base, and you're just trying to defend. The way the question reads is that the game is pretty close, and they happen to have the siege coming up where it's they're doing a 1-3-1 or they're doing a 1-4 and they have somebody going off, and you're in the unfavorable position of having to defend your own base. Yes, you have a tower there, but if they're pushing that hard down on you, odds are good they have at least some type of small advantage over you at that point.
Yeah, but my point is that, like, in those scenarios that they're on your base, the way that you beat that, in my opinion, is taking away their information on you. Because if they don't know that you're moving towards that one member somewhere or three members in mid, then you have a way bigger advantage knowing where they are and they can't see you. That's what I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. That's important. And I'm not trying to downplay that at all then. Okay. I'm sorry. I missed what you were going for.
Okay.
To me, it kind of sounded like you were talking from them already having cracked open the base.
No. I mean that in the scenario where they're moving where the pressure goes and just taking away their knowledge of you is, I think, the most important part.
Some of it.
An easy way to phrase it is, like, say that they have Fiora split pushing top into your base while they have 4 people mid. So, like, Fiora's always there sort of pressuring, and you're kind of having one person move back and forth to make sure that you're clearing the turret. If they ward over the wall so that you can see when you're moving back and forth, you can just drop that pink not close to the wall where they can auto attack it, but far enough away from the wall where it can catch vision of any of the wards that are placed on the other side of the wall, and you can just take that out en route, and they can't see your movement anymore.
Some of it, aside from the ward stuff, is really just going to depend on your comp. If you have somebody who's really good at clearing waves, it might be worth your effort to just send that person to the splitting lane, clear that wave off, and then have them quickly rotate back, hopefully because you've already denied the vision, so they can't even see that there, and if they've dealt with the big wave. Otherwise, you have to send your best duelist to just sort of try and deal with that champion.
Send your best duelist, maybe send the person with the most mobility to get back as quick as possible.
Yeah, it's all about really just quickly rotating, and it's hard to, you're not going to have time to type out anything and issue commands there, which is what the question says, let's be fair.
I think that maybe there is, you kind of, in solo queue, if you have no one you're able to communicate with via voice, like, you almost have to, at least, I don't know, before it starts happening, say, hey, this is the person who should be countering the split push. Because that's, like, otherwise, if you have 2 people who just go for it and, like, either they start, like, I don't know, they start, like, playing a game of chicken, kind of like people might do, like, oh, I'm walking down the hallway, I'm not, we both went left, now we both went right. Instead, it's 2 people who keep saying, wait, I'll go defend it, no, but I won't, but you should, but I want, that needs to be at least a little bit discussed, because otherwise you're gonna waste more time, and time is of a really big essence in something like this when you are defending against that push.
Yeah, and one of the other important things to do is warding again and everything. Like, if you keep ending up in these sieges, you should know that they're coming at that point and just prep for them. There are a few key kind of intersections where you should be throwing wards down, really right outside either of those gates, where you can just see the opponent team rotating, because that's going to be the most efficient route. They're not going to wander back into the jungle at that point if they're trying to swing to one of the side lanes from mid or swing back to mid. They're gonna take the quickest route so that they can try and crack into your base, because anything else is going to give your team plenty of time to clear all of those waves. So getting those wards down ahead of time and sort of being prepared to throw them in, over the gate if they get cleared by the opponent, that's also really critical, so that you know what the opponent's going to do and can, respond accordingly.
All right. I don't know. There's
it's a hard situation to be in, because in a lot of cases it depends on the comp that you're running.
Yeah, you have to try to gain some sort of advantage over them, because if they're pushing you down, like you said, they probably have some advantage already. And if that's a if that's a stalling situation, if you're stalling because you're so far behind that we just like, hey, let's hold out and hope we get to the point where gold difference isn't as important, or if it's early in the game,
it comes down to comp so much too. If you have that Anivia who can set up and hold off, 2, 3, maybe 4 people at that turret, and somebody's moving top, maybe you can pick off that person in like their route to get to top, or you just send somebody with it so you can have your strong duelist fight their strong duelist and have somebody else go in, murder them really quick, and like rejoin the team. Yeah, while still maybe having the wave clear to do it. It's super comp dependent.
If you're running a couple of assassins in there, hopefully you have somebody on your team that can create a pick, and if their mid laner or their AD carry or something kind of steps a little bit out of position, hopefully you can jump on them either through a skill shot or some type of engage, and then your assassins can quickly murder that person. And even if you have to trade like a support for their mid laner, that odds are good that is going to be a trade that's in your favor at that point. Again, assuming you're on the defense, you don't want to be trading like that if you're on offense, because like that same type of trade can end up costing you the game.
Yeah.
Can cost you the game, can cost you Baron, can cost you...
Yeah, it'll cost you an objective that could lead to the game.
Yeah. We got... Where are we at? We're at 50 minutes. We got time for this last one, because it actually is a little bit of a two-parter. Troy, and if we clear out the mailbox, guys, we're so good if we can clear out an entire mailbox in an episode. Look at us being efficient. Troy writes, I'm a support main. This should be a good discussion, Dom. Who plays mostly Blitzcrank and Taric. With the occasional Sona. While I certainly have my fair share of bad games, we all do, we know, man. I feel like there are some games where I'm doing the right things, but I lose because the rest of my team doesn't do so hot. Do you guys have any tips for working with a struggling team as support, given that I can't just carry with kills? Holy shit, do we ever have some tips here?
Dom bitches to me about this like every other day.
Stop playing Taric would be my first piece of advice. Blitzcrank is in my mind, Blitzcrank is the only 100% skill-based champion in the game. Your succeeding as Blitzcrank is completely dependent on how good you are at playing Blitzcrank. You can build whatever you want on him, and it doesn't matter. Go full tank, go full AP, go hybrid, go AD. Do whatever you want on Blitzcrank, and it doesn't matter because his ability set is so good that if you're good at using his abilities, you will be effective as Blitzcrank. If you suck at using his abilities or you're mediocre at him, then, again, it doesn't matter what you do because you're probably not being very helpful to your team.
I really wish there was a rank listed on here, because it would give a little bit more info on like what kind of scenario you're in for support main, because I know like I have been very charmed in the sense that I don't think I've actually played support I don't think I've been in gold or lower than gold ever, just because of I just duoed and got my MMR so high in season 4 when I started playing ranked again. But yeah, if you're below gold, like it's so much different, because like in gold plat, I feel like you can do so much you can carry by keeping your team alive or playing peel, like the Jannas, like the Sorakas. You can end up carrying even though there are no stats that say I carried the shit out of this game, but the enemy team was so angry at me for the entire game because I kept my AD carry alive way more than I should have. There's a lot more stuff there.
Your best bet is to play the champions that have impact-making abilities that also don't require you to be directly in harm's way. And I specify as such because Leona and Alistar, for examples, have really high impact abilities, but they also have to get in the thick of the fight. And if your team doesn't follow up, which is very common below gold, like they just don't pick up what you're throwing down, and you get murdered as a result, well, now you are dead, and the opponent team has a power play that you were hoping to prevent, but instead your team just didn't support you, and you can't do anything about that. But if you play Morgana or Zyra, who still have really strong impactful abilities, but they can do so from range and do a lot of different things as a result there, you end up having a bigger impact just by virtue of how long you're on the board, if nothing else at that point.
Yeah.
It's also hard for your teammates to really appreciate shields and heals, at least, below gold, I would wager. Mid-gold, it's tough to say, but, they're just going to say, oh, yeah, you pressed W, you did some things, but I did all the work.
I don't know what you're talking about. I compliment you every time you heal me with Alistair E because I notice it when I'm running away with barely any life because I do something really stupid.
I love you, baby.
Yeah, the Sona is actually really like the thing that I finally learned about Sona, because I didn't play her for a long time. I played her like season 1.
I wish
maybe.
We had days.
No, but I actually started playing her a bunch after the changes to her ult when you got that crazy amount of CDR. Now it's been nerfed back a little bit. But the thing that's with Sona that you can carry the game is not necessarily getting a bunch of damage off, getting a bunch of heals off, or getting a bunch of speed boosts off. It's tagging as many people as you can with your auras, because you end up like, imagine if If instead
Which
of
unfortunately puts you in harm's way.
Well, it puts you in harm's way, but like you're near your AD carries or your tanks, or you're giving just straight buffs to your team. If you're playing her right, it's as if you only have 4 people, but like, you're getting a rotating set of buffs that just happen to be on your characters frequently, and I guess you can fire off that ult too. And the more you put that off, the more efficient your team just becomes, like inherently. If you keep tagging more people, you get every single time it's more shields. If it's 4 people that get it, that's quadruple the shields. If you get the speed boost, cool. All those people got speed boost. Same thing with damage. It's tagging it more than just the like getting Q damage off. That's not what you carry with.
My big worry about Sona in lower MMRs is that teams are going to expect her to be the engage.
Oh yeah,
for
that's
them.
not good.
She's got the big, and it's not. She's terrible at engage. Every now and then you'll get a great flash ult, but by and large you want to use it as a counter engage. But most teams, I think when they see an ult like that, or they see Alistar in general, Thresh in a lot of cases, Leona, like they are expecting you to do all of the engage and that type of stuff, and you are the least funded individual, that's why I prefer Morgana and Zyra in these types of situations, because they're not like they're hoping you land hooks or bindings or roots.
They fish,
but it forces your team to sort of play with a different perspective and attitude about things, and not expect all of like that the really important engage stuff that you can do but you need the immediate follow up for. I don't know.
I would say that if you are lower elo and you feel like you aren't carrying. Like, yeah, I agree. Sona's not like Sona gets appreciated more.
She's so good.
She gets appreciated really way more in higher elos because people can see, like, understand what she's doing. Because it's not so besides her ultimate, it's not so inherent when it comes to team fights what all she's doing, because it's not flashy and it's inside your own set of people. You're not looking there. You're looking at the opponents, and instead you just got your backline. She's just helping out your entire team. So yeah, I'd agree. Like Morgana is a better person to try to carry with. Especially because that binding, you can just, like Shira said, you can throw it out. You can fucking fish with it. If you hit,
you fish with it. Like that. I mean, and the thing too with that is like the team, if they know that your Q's not hitting, like they know that you can fish with it again. If you miss a Sona ultimate, you're out a major ability for a significant amount of time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you also feel like in that low elo, if you feel like you need to carry, like you're realizing like, okay, I understand this game better. Let's say you're an arrogant person. I'm not saying this about you specifically, but let's say you're arrogant and want to be carrying and think that, okay, I understand this game well enough to pull shit off. Play like a Vel'Koz or a Brand or a Zyra support. Like you can just stomp a lane by yourself doing that if you're smart about it. But if you fuck up, you're still, as we said, incredibly vulnerable. You're underfunded. If you fall behind, you're even more underfunded because you're entirely based on kills or hanging out.
You really have to know what you're doing.
You have to do well with those things. So, but if you're concerned about carrying with support, it has to be like it's so difficult to quantify that on a lot of supports that aren't damage based. Like
I mean, and I quick pulled up Sona's statistics for her performance. In bronze, she has a losing rate until you reach about the 25-26 games played threshold, and by that point, most people have abandoned her because they haven't been succeeding on her. Like she seems like a really easy champion to pick up and play, but there's actually a lot of nuance to her kit.
This is a funny anecdote just because this is when I first started playing League. Season 1, my friend would play Sona and would buy 5 Philo Stones. For those of you who didn't play League back, I don't know, 4 seasons ago, Philo Stone was a gold generation item that just gave you mana and health regen. So he just like
and gold.
So and none of those were unique because unique passives didn't really exist very much back then. So it was Sona that just was like slamming on the keyboard because she could, and then Innervating Locket came around too. So both of those things combined was just stupid. But we won't go back to Memorial Day's episode, even though that one was fun. Do you want to hit this last little point too? Troy had one little last point, which is saying, do you have tips for where supports should try to get vision on the map? I find myself just warding random bits of brush besides Dragon and Baron when it gets submitted late game. I think we've talked, like, obviously we just kind of covered that a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of went on a rant about this, not a rant, or maybe just a full explanation. Like, I was talking about this in the T4 Slack the other day. there are great spots all over the map, all over the map, and you can find images for that. Doing just Google image search. They'll give you all like the key places that you want to ward, the ideal spots within those locations to really maximize the vision. One of the things that a lot of new or inattentive supports do or ignore is getting wards down in the thick of fights, like figuring out where the fight is going to move in the course of things and throwing a ward down there, to get that vision either as soon as the opponents walk into that brush or before they even go in there. Your AD carries might not thank you for it verbally, but I guarantee you it is one they will absolutely appreciate it because they live and die by the vision that they have. And that's that's really the most important thing. If you think the opponent is about to walk into some brush or walk into an area where you don't have vision, you gotta make it I don't want to say your top priority, but one of your higher priorities to get vision there so that your team can keep responding to the action that's going on.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of you said Dragon and Baron, obviously. If you're going to end up, if either of those are about to be contested, obviously getting deep vision on those sides is incredibly important to see where they're moving, or maybe on your side if you're pushed in and you're behind. The one time I can think of that might be confusing, after you get a hang of it, is if there's no real obvious objective, and that almost never each team's even and there's no obvious objective to go for, but that almost never happens. I can't think of a scenario where I've been both teams are probably saying where are they going to go? I don't know. No one knows where anyone's going to go here. Look at if it's going to be if there's one inner turret left on their side, start warding around that area, pushing in mid and top, and you have the vision you need to make smart decisions. You don't need them you don't need wards in bot side in that scenario. So just focus them around where the objectives you need to take are, or the objectives that your opponents are trying to take are. So if you can see that kind of harkens back to the pink ward that we talked about for way too long earlier.
You'll notice Sean has said nothing. That's because he doesn't know how to throw down a ward. He doesn't know how to play ward.
He's taken that key binding off. He doesn't actually use his trinket either.
That's not true. I ward all the time.
Let me check.
Hey, I outwarded everybody in
What do you got, 10 a game?
Maybe, probably.
Cheer, you can't say you outwarded everyone in that game when you were just a moving ward that dropped poison.
Hey, you know what? I dropped poison real good against non-player characters.
I actually expected, hey, you know what? Fuck you guys.
Yeah, fuck you guys.
That's the cheer we know. So... yeah, I guess that
one bad game and everybody just talks shit.
Yeah, we just called it a lot today. So yeah, I guess that'll be it, guys. That was episode, I think 391, maybe
390.
390. What? No, I missed an episode. It's got to be 391. It's got to be 391.
I don't know.
Who cares? It's 390 something.
It's been a lot of episodes, guys. That's what we're trying to say.
391.
I think we have something fun coming for episode 400.
Adam's very excited for episode 400. We have no idea what's going to be happening. So I hope you all are half as terrified or completely as terrified as we are, because we are incredibly terrified. I'm
really
terrified.
Are.
I mean, yeah, I might run away that day.
Yeah, I'm always scared when Adam has plans.
Yeah, and as described at the beginning of the episode, these headphones are pretty sweet. I have liked them. I guess this is still a really small sample size because I have only listened to two beautiful men's voices this entire time with them, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's cute. There's a cute bromance here, of course.
I bet you say that to all the boys.
So I'll be talking about them maybe a couple more times as I play them, just because we are technically supposed to review them, and honestly, I'm totally cool with this.
You gonna record a show with the microphone?
Maybe we have another thing that might be coming in from PAX as well. That's going to be maybe good for future PAXes / maybe recording. I don't know. We'll see what happens if it actually comes in. But it was great to have these already. Yay, HyperX! It is for anyone who wants to check it out, it's the Cloud Stinger. It's under $50. It's just came out, I think, last week. So yeah, episode 391, guys.
All right.
Well, I don't know what we're doing on Wednesday yet.
We'll figure it out.
We will produce something, and if it's producing me trying to even attempt to play games for once,
we don't promise that it will be of high quality, but it will be something.
It'll be great.
Content
Sure
content does not have the word good in front of it. So that's what we've got. All right.
Have a good one, everybody.
Yeah, bye.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Trinity Force podcast, part of the Trinity Force Network. If you liked our advice or would like to hear your question read on air, you can reach us at feedback@trinityforcepodcast.com. You can also check out all of our other awesome shows that we release on the weekly. Your first stop is at trinityforcenetwork.com, where you'll find links to the LCS Rundown, 4 Wards, Sheen Procs, and Oz LOL podcasts. Next, head over to youtube.com/tforce podcast to find weekly VODs of all our shows and Battle Arena. But the community doesn't stop there. You can find us on social media as T-Force Network or at patreon.com/T-Force Network to grab a Champion Select podcast. Finally, we're on Reddit at T-Force Network, where we post a link to all the VODs, podcasts, and have discussion about your favorite League of Legends topics. Thanks again for listening to the Trinity Force Network, and we look forward to seeing you in the community.